In 1896, Walter Arnold became the first person in Britain to be caught speeding. He was driving at 7 miles per hour in a zone with a 2-mile-per-hour limit when a police officer chased him down on a bicycle and apprehended him. Hitler's favorite actress, Russian spy Olga Chekova, was one of the key organizers of a promising assassination attempt on the Führer. However, Stalin canceled the plan to kill Adolf at the last minute. A husband and wife, accompanied by their 11 children, are dressed in their best for Palm Sunday in 1954. During the Junkai Marathon, Kenyan runner Jacqueline Kiplimo sacrificed a win to slow down and help a disabled athlete drink water, running with him for 28 kilometers. She finished second, but stated she did not regret her humanitarian act. A punt gun used for duck hunting, which was banned because a single shot could kill up to 50 ducks, 1910s. A 1929 photo from Berlin, Germany, shows women openly buying cocaine on the streets, illustrating how easily substances now banned were once obtained. 2 photos from Azerbaijan, 1909. The top image shows a father's reaction to the birth of a son, while the bottom image shows the reaction to the birth of a daughter. South Korean actress Choi Yoon-hee, having been kidnapped, is greeted by her new abductor Kim Jong-il in North Korea, 1978. Black Day, the single day of the year when black visitors were permitted to enter the Memphis Zoo, 1959. An experiment in Italy, 1963, involved training students under hypnosis. The students are shown in a trance, listening to a lesson recording through headphones. Martin Luther King Jr. being arrested in Florida, USA in 1964 for demanding to be served at a restaurant designated for whites only. A radium mask designed for the treatment of facial cancer is shown in 1920. In 1986, pilot Alexander Kluyev made a bet that he could land a passenger plane blindly using only instruments. He lost the wager, causing the plane to crash and burn, killing 70 people, though the pilot survived and was sentenced to just 6 years in prison. Students at Cambridge University in the United Kingdom protest against the admission of women to the institution in 1897. A 1994 photo from Rwanda by Annie Leibovitz shows bloody footprints where victims tried to climb walls to escape genocide. A Jewish family is deported from London to Hamburg in 1939 for having invalid papers. Tragically, Hamburg would be destroyed by British bombing just 4 years later. A shell carrier photographed during the Nigerian Civil War in 1968. Soviet soldiers standing before a massive pile of human teeth at the Majdanek death camp, 1944. In the West Bank in 1988, a Palestinian teenager is captured aiming a slingshot at a helicopter belonging to the Israeli Air Force. This grim memorial to the victims of the Buchenwald concentration camp in Germany marks the rails where death trains transporting prisoners once traveled. The most fraudulent election in history occurred in Liberia in 1927, where Charles King received 243,000 votes, despite there being only 15,000 registered voters. Baker Daniel Kutanen passed away from dystrophy in besieged Leningrad. Notably, he refused to eat a single crumb of the thousands of loaves of bread that passed through his hands. A bustling market for mobile phones in China, 2001. Miss Italy is shown knocking out Miss Sweden during an international women's boxing match held in Stockholm in 1949. Emperor Nicholas II is shown inspecting trophies after a hunt in Belarus, 1913, where the trophies were beautifully arranged for him. an 18th century spiked chair used for executing witches, causing death by blood loss. In 1895, on St. Paul Island, Alaska, sea lions were clubbed to death with sticks. To ensure identification in the event of injury or death from bombing raids, a tattoo artist in Britain in 1942 was shown applying a young lady's social security number to one leg and her address to the other. Ivory traders are pictured in the Great Lakes region of Africa during the 1880s. A photograph of Rainy Bethia taken 2 weeks before his hanging for the rape of a 70-year-old white woman. This event in 1936 marked the last public execution in America. Frau Farini, known as the Monkey Girl, photographed in London in 1883. Adopted by Guillermo Antonio Farini, she was falsely advertised throughout her life as a primitive human and was considered by some to be a missing link between humans and apes. A vintage photograph from the late 19th century depicting a man wearing a rooster costume. In Oregon in 1903, a railroad bridge is constructed entirely from stacked logs. Violet Jessup worked on the liners Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic, surviving shipwrecks on all three while remaining unharmed. Pictured on the right is Geronimo, the military leader of the Chiricahua Apache, who led the resistance against the U.S. invasion of his tribe's lands for 25 years. He was forced to surrender to the U.S. Army in 1886. The Shanghai waterfront is filled with evacuation boats following the communist victory in China, 1946. During the Great Depression in the 1930s USA, a man holds a sign stating he has 3 trades, speaks 3 languages, fought for 3 years, has 3 children, and has been unemployed for 3 months, but is only looking for one job. In 1939, flour mills in the United States began shipping their products in colorful sacks. This was done so that impoverished families could subsequently sew clothing from the sackcloth. A Bosnian soldier stood near a destroyed house where 69 people, including his family, were killed during the Yugoslavian War in 1995. Although the KKK was officially banned in the 1870s and went underground, the organization resumed open activities in 1915, attracting about 6 million members while lynchings in the U.S. continued. In the UK in 1943, a proud member of the Women's Corps shows off her new tattoo, serving as a symbol of rebellion and style. Democratically elected President Salvador Allende is seen just seconds before his death during a military coup at the presidential palace in Chile, 1973. There were only 3 people in the USA qualified to manually pack the parachutes for the Apollo 15 mission. Their expertise was deemed so critical that they were forbidden from traveling in the same car, lest a single accident jeopardize the entire space program. Jack Daniel, the creator of the famous Jack Daniel's whiskey, died of blood poisoning 6 years after injuring his foot when he kicked his safe in frustration over forgetting the combination. A photograph captures the giant Ferris wheel at the World's Fair in Chicago, USA in 1893. Vincenzo Peruggia stole the Mona Lisa in 1911 by simply walking into the unguarded Louvre, removing the painting from its frame, and walking out. In 1961 Berlin, residents of the East are seen escaping to the West through a breach in the fence before border guards could detect them. Take a look at this photograph from 1919, which captures the very first prototype of a wireless telephone. A strange device from 1937 designed to hide a poker player's facial expressions. A pensioner who had dreamed of jumping off Niagara Falls in a barrel during her youth finally fulfilled her dream in 1901 at the age of 63. Dr. Fukushi Masaichi, a pathologist who established a unique collection of tattooed skins taken from the corpses of Yakuza gang members, is shown in Tokyo in 1987. A glimpse into the appearance of X-rays during the 1900s. A 107-year-old former slave and his wife stand listening to a Ku Klux Klan preacher in Talladega, 1948. Civilians sleeping in the subway during a German bombing raid in London, 1940. A human cannonball performance is captured at a carnival in Massachusetts, 1991. Demonstrating a love for baseball above all else, Detroit Tigers fans are shown celebrating their World Series victory in Detroit, 1984. A 1910 photograph from the USA shows a resident of Ohio demonstrating a topless car of his own design. A poster from the USSR in 1968 reads, "Soldiers fall, income rises." The son of a poor farmer is pictured graduating from university. His father had worked in the fields for 4 years to pay for his son's education. A laboratory technician wearing a plastic protective suit selects a rat for experimentation in an Indiana lab, USA, 1949. Two childhood friends meet on opposite sides of a strike in France, 1972. One is a striker and the other is a police officer. Greek theaters had a special position called a rabdouche, whose duty was to beat overly rowdy spectators with a stick. Would you take such a job? Women in Belarus are pictured cooking in a half-destroyed oven during World War II in 1942. A looted Inca cemetery in Peru, photographed in 1973. A couple is shown watching the launch of the Apollo 8 spacecraft in 1968. A wedding ceremony taking place in London in 1941 inside a church that had been destroyed by German shelling. French Catholic clergy in Dijon are shown burning an effigy of Santa Claus in front of children in 1951 as a protest against the pagan aspects of Christmas. In 1985, the KGB arrested Adolf Tolkachev, a radar engineer who sold 54 top-secret plans to the U.S. He earned nearly 800,000 rubles and $2 million for a potential escape, but was executed in 1986. The Republic of South Africa holds the world record for the highest number of rapes, with statistics suggesting every fourth man is a rapist. Consequently, a woman born there is more likely to be sexually assaulted than to learn how to read. Abandoned ships sit in the desert caused by the drop in water levels in the Aral Sea, which is called one of the worst environmental disasters on the planet. London post offices allowed mailing ducks, rabbits, and other animals in 1938, but this ended when blood-stained packages started arriving. A wedding procession in the USSR during the 1960s, where the entire village would come together to celebrate the newlyweds. A photo from the 1920s shows the atomic grandma, Marie Curie, alongside her relative, Grandpa Albert Einstein. A jobless man in Budapest, Hungary, earns money by renting out his bald head as advertising space for a sports magazine, 1939. In a French village during World War I, a mother and her child are depicted cooking while wearing gas masks. A scene of love in Los Angeles, USA, 1959. This photo captures the times when there was no internet. The American command had originally planned to drop 15 nuclear bombs on Japan, rather than just 2. However, Japan's unexpected surrender on August 15, 1945, halted a plutonium shipment that was already en route. Pictured is an M1911 pistol equipped with an extended magazine and a brass shell casing collector. In the early days of World War I, planes lacked machine guns, so enemy pilots would shoot at each other with pistols. Young girls painting clock dials with radioactive paint in 1922. Most of these workers would later die from radiation sickness. A resident of a small tribe in the mountains of New Guinea, shocked upon seeing a white man for the first time. Until 1930, these natives believed they were the only people on Earth. In Sydney, 1942, children are pictured wearing special bomb shield hats equipped with headphones and a mouthguard to prevent them from biting their tongues. Soldiers of the Army of the Potomac are seen fighting over a bottle of wine in Virginia during the Civil War in 1863. An inventive hat designed with a built-in radio for listening on the go, 1949. A photo titled The Last Kiss, taken in 1987. On April 30, 1956, 78-year-old U.S. Vice President Alben Barkley passed away in the Senate moments after declaring, "I would rather be a servant in the house of the Lord than sit among the mighty." During the Apollo 17 mission in 1972, at the request of the astronauts, a patch of rough fabric was attached to the inside of the lunar spacesuit helmets so they could scratch their noses. In Texas, a singular event occurred where a man was killed by a bullet fired 20 years earlier. Back in 1883, Henry Ziegler was shot at, but he survived when the bullet merely grazed his head and became lodged in a tree. 2 decades later, Ziegler decided to remove that tree, choosing to blow it up with dynamite because it had grown so large. The explosion dislodged the old bullet from the wood and propelled it into Ziegler's head, killing him instantly. A 1913 photo from the Netherlands shows a large halibut catch being sold at a fish market. An Aleut man is dressed in a sea lion skin in Alaska, 1900. A monster from a remote corner of the planet, a giant man-eating crocodile, 29.5 feet long, shot by hunters in Australia in 1957. In November 1945, circus elephants named Kiri and Manny assist in clearing debris from the streets of Hamburg, Germany, following a bombing. A massive ocean sunfish weighing 3,500 pounds, 1,587 kg, caught by fishermen off Santa Catalina Island, California, in April 1910. In 1915, Mexican student Wenceslao Moguel survived a firing squad execution during the Revolution, despite receiving 9 gunshot wounds. He managed to crawl to a church at night where he received help. Concepts of health and fitness were quite different in 1920. This photo shows athletes casually sharing cigarettes while competing in the Tour de France bicycle race. Benito Mussolini is arrested in Switzerland in 1903 at age 20 for evading service in the Italian army. At that time, the future fascist was a socialist who loved playing the violin. A young girl stepping across the borderline separating East and West Berlin. While she crossed safely, many others were not as lucky and were shot. Later, a 4-meter-high brick wall would be constructed along this very line. Men pouring out whiskey during Prohibition in the USA, 1931. In Benton in 1928, gangster Charlie Berger is seen smiling prior to his execution. On December 13, 1937, The Nanking Massacre began as Japanese forces stormed the city and slaughtered the civilian population. Over the course of approximately 6 weeks, it is estimated that 300,000 people were killed and more than 20,000 women were raped. Whether it brought joy or a bit of frustration, I'd love to hear your take in the comments. Get ready for the next chapter. Please hit like and subscribe to stay updated. See you later.